There you go.
Okay. All right, calling to order the meeting of the day 2 of the annual meeting of the Economic Development Commission, March 14th. We have a quorum. Everyone is here with the exception of Mika, who is traveling with her daughter to visit colleges, but she will watch the recording before the decision meeting we have on the 23rd. The agenda is simply to review the next 6 applications. It's all posted on the website, www.woodstock-vermont.com. All the information you need, the applications, the schedule, and so forth. Today, we are discussing Woodstock streetscape, and we're basically discussing, with one exception, with a couple of exceptions, we're discussing enhancements to the physical environment in the village area. Woodstock streetscape enhancement, village beautification project, Vale Field revitalization, and the Woodstock Varsity Hockey Ice Fund. And then we have 2 others, the Woodstock Nursery School and the electric equipment pilot project. Are there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none. Are there any citizen comments? We only have a couple of people who are not EDC members, Beth and Carol Cunningham. Do you have any comments that are not on the regular agenda? Okay, hearing none. Before we start, just a reminder, Michael, you weren't here before, and just a reminder to everybody. I think we did a pretty good job. It's hard, but remember that this meeting is for information gathering only. It's not for expressing our views on the attractiveness or unattractiveness of any of the proposals. We're just gathering information. We're not deliberating. The deliberations will take place on March 23rd. And again, just as a reminder, next
24th?
I think it's next
24th, I believe is what you've been saying.
No. I think
Wednesday
Wednesday
is the discussion and voting.
is the 24th.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So then next week. No.
It's the
3rd. Oh man,
The
Let me get
22nd
it.
is Tuesday.
Tuesday is the 22nd. So Wednesday is Wednesday, and the Wednesday is the 23rd.
Okay.
Right.
I thought it was,
Okay,
I remember 24th.
I
I
think
You've been saying the 24th.
I think this is wrong. Hold on. Today is the
Wednesday, the
14th.
23rd
Is
is our voting.
Is the voting, right? So the next meeting for all of the massive numbers of the public who are here, or we could also call them Beth and Carol. So our final meeting for information gathering is next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, the 22nd.
Yes.
And 14th, right? And our deliberations are on the 23rd, the Wednesday.
So,
Joe and then
sorry, yeah.
Okay, Saturday, it was agreed that if, for example, somebody should pop in and address one of the applicants that is being made, they could ask questions in the chat room,
Oh, yeah, thank you. Sorry.
and the applicant would answer.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So for, again, Beth and Carol, as members of the public, and then we'll repeat this if others come on, we may or may not have, we haven't really had any time really for non-members of the EDC to ask questions, but we do want the questions answered. So we have the chat panel open, and we will make sure that those questions are directed to the applicants, and they will then post their answers on the discussion forum online. Already, some of the applicants from Saturday have started to do that. And then just an emphasis, this is about information gathering. Try really hard not to express our opinions about, although I'm sure we're forming them. We've all read the applications. We all have to form opinions, but let's not communicate those opinions today. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, John,
Tom, sorry.
we have to discuss the schedule because it's been the 24th in the emails for a long time, and I don't know if I could.
I thought I remember the 24th.
I'm looking at, it's been Thursday, March 24th. It's been in the chain even 11 days ago. Everybody, yeah, so it's okay, but
All
let's
right,
just.
we need
let's
to
just-
review
we
it
need to
after.
review
Okay,
it,
fine.
yeah.
I will, tomorrow morning, I will go back around and we'll
Okay, great.
get the
Yeah.
deliberation meeting. We obviously all want to be there for the deliberation.
Yes, of course.
Mhm.
I don't think it's the end of the world if we have to do it 2 days, a new day. the
Yeah,
following
yeah,
week or
yeah,
something.
Yeah, of course,
So,
yeah, I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Well,
Thank you,
everybody
thank you.
knows
A lot of moving parts, John, thank you.
No, thank you for that.
Is it a public meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. But there's deliberations. When we go into deliberations, there'll be citizen comments for a few minutes,
That's
and
it.
then deliberations, people are, of course, it's public, but no
Okay.
comments. So, okay, All right, we're about 10 minutes behind, so we'll stick to the schedule, but we'll be running 10 minutes behind unless we can pick it up. If you can see the applicant, Joe, raise your hand. We're going to have the applicant sit down there. And you should be able to hear them. And the next is the Woodstock Streetscape Enhancement. Do you want us to start with questions?
Yeah,
or do you
sure.
wanna
This is pretty straightforward. There are 3 holes in the sidewalk along Central Street that had previously had trees in them. And now the trees are gone. There are trees on other spots along Central Street and Elm Street. And I simply would like to replace those spots with actual trees. One of them had just a stump in it, and the other 2 are just dirt holes. And I think it'd be great if we could just put trees back in the way they were originally. I had run that by Cy Benoit when he was doing Keeler's Landing, and he said he could probably do it for around $1,000, but that was a year ago. Things have changed, so I'm budgeting like $1,500 a piece for those 3 holes. In addition to that, based on what we experienced last year with the activity on the green and in town, there seems to be a need for more benches. So we'd like to buy 5 more benches. Now, when we bought the original benches, they were like $400 or $500 a piece. That's changed a lot, and now they're around $1,000. Yeah. And so there's another, $5,000. And essentially that's it. Now, where those benches will be placed, again, like everything else, the EDC does not own them. They belong to the town. It's pretty much up to their discretion. I hope that they will listen to the input from Beth and I about, where the most traffic was last year and where they might be needed the best. But again, that's their call. Nothing, as always, nothing that the EDC provides money to be purchased belongs to the EDC. It doesn't. There seems to be a misconception about that out there, and it belongs to the town. It's for them to do what they like. So essentially, that's it. That's what the budget's about, and that's what we'd like to do tonight.
All right, so EDC members that are, I think all of you were on, no, Deborah, you were not online, and Marion, you were not online. So you raise your hand if you want to raise it. Let's start with Patrick. Go ahead, Patrick.
Joe, a couple quick questions.
Sure.
Did the town, are they aware of this, that there's going to
Aware
be
of
5
what?
benches? Is the town aware that there will be 5 more benches, and is there any discussion with them? of
No.
where they-
I talked to one of the selectmen about it, Ray Bourgeois. He, as a matter of fact, he was not on the Board of Selectmen when he was kind of a, how should I say? He joined our committee, and he's the one who researched the original purchase of the benches. And he knows about it, but we really haven't talked about it with the selectmen yet.
Okay, because I think that should be something before we buy 5 benches and 2 or 3 of them can't go somewhere. We should really confirm
Well,
that.
it's really, it's really based on need, and it's obvious that they needed. There have been more than one event in the green, particularly where people didn't have a place to sit. So,
No,
and-
I'm in total agreement that more benches is a good thing, but if the town has control over it, we should at least make sure that they're going to do what we think they're going to do. The other question is the tree. You're estimating $1,500 a tree, but we don't really know the real estimate for that. Is that true?
Say what?
The question was, we don't really know the real cost of the trees. We're just
Well,
estimating.
side said around $1,000. That, and.
Oh,
you
okay,
know,
he said, okay, $1,000 a tree, okay. All right, so
Yeah,
we're in the
but
ballpark.
that was a year or so ago, so, I want to make sure we have enough, and that's why I'm
Right.
budgeting 1,500.
If
Okay,
as-
cool.
As we discussed yesterday, if the costs of that are less than 1,500,
Yeah.
then the EDC.
Yeah,
gets the
yeah,
money
of
back.
course.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I wasn't sure what that was with that. Okay, that was my questions.
Okay, Michael and then Todd.
So that's $1,500 for the tree and install.
Yes,
Right, okay.
yes.
And the other question, just building on Patrick's, was there, so when you initially had benches.
Yeah.
the last time you bought them.
Yeah.
Did you have to go to the town and say, hey, where can we put the benches? And then they approved it, or did you just kind of put them out there and everything was fine? Because
They, when we originally bought the benches, they never identified a specific spot. It's pretty pointless anyways, because they move them.
the town does.
No,
People-
people
people
do.
move.
They pick them up and they move them all over the place.
Right.
So it's really, you know, a waste of activity to say, all right, put one there, because you're gonna come back 10 minutes later, you're not gonna be there anyway.
And you're looking to get the same benches, so you don't have to go through a
Yes, that's-
whole
that's
other
why-
thing of choosing. a
That's
bench.
why it's gonna cost a little bit more, because we're not gonna shop. I wanna get ones that are identical to the ones we already have there.
Todd? I'm sorry, were you-
Yeah, I'm done. Yes.
Todd?
We Need Benches is awesome, but I'm a fan of seeing if we can get people to sponsor benches in memory of someone.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Or,
good
you know,
idea.
maybe merchants want to do, like, we know that the picnic shop did one that's gonna go in this year, the circle one.
Yeah.
But if there's a way to get that info out there and people are interested, maybe they get a tiny little thing and memorable grandpa or this or that.
Yeah,
That if that was an option, that'd be great. And I would love if you were interested in doing something like that in tandem with the request.
Well, you know, that's a great idea. It is. Thanks. I think one way to address that is probably between now and the time they actually arrive, we can put it out there to folks. And if they decide to purchase, if they decide to purchase one of the benches and put their name on it, that's just that much less money we'll take out of the kitty that the EDC has to come up with.
Great. That sounds great.
Yeah.
That's
You
cool.
can do that with the trees too.
Yeah.
You're
people
gonna put
love
a plaque on a
trees.
tree?
No, you put a little stanchion below
I
it.
thought
with the-
But I thought you draw little hearts on them
Chairs
with,
back
you
there
know,
too, if you want,
JD.
wherever you want.
With your jackknife.
You know, Jack
No, no,
loves
you-
Judy or something, or Jack loves Jack.
All right, Deborah, Marion, Larry, any questions? No? Marion, you
Questions here, thank you.
yeah, you just have to unmute yourself because I can't raise your hand. Joe, I have one quick question. Do
Yeah.
the trees, the new trees, do they require any sort of maintenance in the first year or so? And is the town, I think that is,
Yeah, boy, that's a good question, John.
Okay.
I didn't ask that. I would assume they would.
Yeah.
You know, they're probably similar to the seedlings that went in
Right.
at Teagle's Landing that they required. And once they get rooted, they're on their own.
there were trees put in on the green, within the last
Right.
3
Those
years.
bags.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
whoever,
water.
the EDC had nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
who
yeah.
maintained those, but anyway, it seems to me that that's
Well,
combined with
wouldn't it be appropriate for the town to take that over?
absolutely. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
that should be part of the conversation we have with the town. Let's
Yeah.
make sure that we, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
you know what?
Sorry,
I'll
I'm
make
giving
sure
advice.
I'll make sure that conversation happens.
Yeah, okay, I'm giving advice here, not, we
good
can
to
do
know.
that
Yeah,
the
yeah,
next
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
All right, are there any more questions on Woodstock streetscape enhancement?
Thank you, Joe.
Okay,
Done?
that's it,
Great,
thanks.
thank you.
Okay. Now I should
Okay.
move, right, John?
We're back on, but stay near that end. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Or over there.
Hey,
Yeah,
John,
Go to the next room.
John,
We're back
Yeah.
on,
John, could you
back.
is there a way to move the camera closer so we can see the person?
yeah, this is very.
If it's not possible, it's not possible. No worries.
Yeah, no, maybe, hold on. We're gonna have some little,
This-
Can you see anything there?
yeah, that's, yeah.
That's
Is that
better.
better?
Yep.
Was that a good angle for
The
Beth?
only thing is that it's gonna be blocking the sound. Is there something else we can, this is ridiculous, but,
Does it block the sound much?
well, let's see, Beth,
I
can
hear
you
you.
just talk?
Michael, pull
your selfie Can you stick hear out. me?
Wait, so hold on, Beth. go
No
ahead.
problem.
Can you
Yeah.
hear me, Patrick?
Okay, great. All right, the next up is the Village Beautification Project. Beth, do you want us to start with questions? Do you
No,
wanna
I
say
can,
something?
if you don't mind, I'll just
No.
start and say a couple things. Thank you, and I have put in a grant request for $9,000 of a $19,000 budget. Those are for holiday lights that benefit locals and visitors and merchants alike, and hoteliers, et cetera. And the balance for flower baskets. There have been a lot of discussions on listserv about the flower baskets, which were, came to be in 2009 with a gift from Larry Perry, who at that point owned Woodstock Home and Hardware. and he purchased the baskets after Carolyn Kimball had seen them in Princeton. And so, and then it has fallen to the chamber to hire someone to water, feed, and maintain the flower baskets for 4 months. And also coordinate a donation of both chippers and timber tenders who have put up the lights, which is at a significant cost to them.
All right. Questions? Todd? And
So-
then Joe?
Beth, in keeping with my theme here, which a lot of people talked with us, literally called me up to talk to me about this because we know my prior stance. I just wonder if you can just ask if anyone's interested in the public in sponsoring the lights before it has to be a pro rata share of the public's money. And if they say no, then we have that information. But if someone comes up and says, that sounds fantastic. And also, I believe it would be great for the public to know in this process just how much Chippers is giving to the town, because I don't think that everyone realizes that.
$12,000.
That's a huge, that's amazing. So perhaps if other folks know, they might step up to the plate. But regardless, I just ask if you think about considering that with this sort of thing, these higher profile items.
Can I just respond to that really quickly? And
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I understand. I think that this is economic development at its best because it's enhancing the beauty of town, summer and winter. And it benefits everyone across the board, whether you have kids, the merchants get a benefit, everybody that's paying into the rooms, meals and alcohol tax. And I think if you ask any of the merchants in town and you wait, because you'll be on that list. I was looking at the donation list for St. James Church, who most recently just put up a auction. And it's the same people. It's Woodstock Farmers Markets. It's 47 Central Street. It's Elevation Clothing. And so they make donations continuously. We started off getting these paid for by the merchants. At one point, Maria Frederer from the Daily Cat, when she owned Bentley's, paid for the whole thing. But it's getting more difficult.
We're not allowed to say opinion. So all I would say is it would be great if you just put it out there in the universe. And I don't think myself or anyone would feel that a merchant or anyone otherwise, a private citizen, is a bad person because it ends up being something that town might end up providing through the meals tax. I think it's a fantastic question to ask people. If you could do that, I think it'd be great. That's just my stance on it, but I just would love if you would at least, and I don't mean merchants, I mean just anyone.
Other questions? I'm looking online. Sorry, Deborah and then Marion and then Michael. Oh, sorry. Joe had raised his hand. So Joe, then Deborah, then Marion, then Michael. Deborah, Marion, Michael.
I have one question. In the past, new lights had to be purchased annually. That's still going to be the case?
Yeah, they get trashed. Just backing into say what Gillingham's, the big trucks that are backing.
I saw a
in,
truck
they
take one
it-
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Deborah.
Can I can unmute myself. Okay, got it. Hi, Beth.
Deb.
Hi. I want to be clear, some clarity. It said in there that you purchased the plants from the school with the funds you raised from local donations.
yes.
So the money going to the baskets, is it?
It's for
There's
the
70.
maintenance.
So the $1,200, no, the $6,000 from EDC goes to maintenance?
Yes, it's to pay someone. In the past, we've paid Elijah. The chamber owns a 50-gallon or larger
Watering tank.
and they have to be watered first thing in the morning. And then you have to mix whatever it is, fertilizer, and do that every 2 weeks and deadhead.
A
And
lot of
that's how
work,
they
right?
stay looking
Yeah.
nice. And we require the person that's doing the watering to have their own insurance in case one of the basket falls on a Mercedes or something.
Right. And that's for, you said for 4 months?
Yes, that's from at least Memorial Day weekend through Columbus Day, unless we get a frost before Columbus Day, at which time they come down earlier.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Marion, and then Michael.
This is my new person question that I get to ask. You know, as a resident, I love the lights. I think they're a great idea. The question is, have they always been funded in this way? It sounded like you said they used to be funded by specific merchants.
Several times, Woodstock Home and Hardware, again, when Larry Perry owned Woodstock Home and Hardware, he would donate the lights to the village. And then I would coordinate
Installation.
the installation of them. And then it got to the point where I went to the trustees who asked difficult questions. They funded them in part once. The next time I went back to the town, Maria, again, Frederer raised her hand because she thought other people in the room would fund them. And she said, I'll fund whatever. And she ended up paying for all of them. And so since the EDC has been a member or has been in business, and because beautification, I think, is part of economic development for the community, I have come to you folks and heard Todd last year speak, question it. I understand your questions. It seems, because it just seems like it's the right thing to do.
Got it. And is there, just to kind of follow up on Todd's question, and is there even a way, I mean, I understand your point, the merchants get hit for everything. Is there a way to reach out to, some of the second homeowners or vacationers that might really feel connected to the community by contributing to something like that? But I don't know if there's an easy way to find them or if that's prohibitive in terms of the effort it would take.
Actually, in the past, between 2009 and 2016, we did, with the help of the Vermont Standard, who donated a big ad, would put an ad in the paper and money would come to the chamber. We are not a 501c3, we're a 501c6. So that's not, you can't get a charitable donation at this point, although I have half of a IRS application put together to create a C3. So you could.
Well, you don't have it yet.
I don't have it. Yeah, it won't be for this year.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Does that exclude you from like crowdsourcing, like crowdfunding, like a GoFundMe kind of thing,
I don't.
where you could put it out to the public?
It doesn't exclude, but it just means that there's not the benefit for the person giving a large donation. It just
Right.
means they can't claim it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that kind of answered my question. My
But they
question
can
would
do
be
it.
like, what's your plan for next year and years beyond? Is it an EDC grant every year, or is there some kind of plan to get a long-term commitment from the town or from the EDC or
I would love a
something else?
long-term commitment from the EDC. I don't think that the town is going to be amenable to it. It does seem to meet some of the mission that I've heard in the past, and I know you're reevaluating your mission.
Yeah.
But visitors as well as locals enjoy the enhancement of the community.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm happy if anyone online has any interest in helping me finish this 501c3 application with the IRS. I would be more than happy to work with someone so that we could have a beautification education component of the chamber that is, and that's not unusual for some chambers to have that component.
I would say that there's offline, we should explore the Woodstock Community Trust can act as a fiscal sponsor, and we can actually, for certain things, make donations to the town, both of which Woodstock Community Trust or the town would be tax deductible. Be easier to do it through the Woodstock Community Trust.
Okay.
Sorry, Michael, are you done?
Yes, I am done.
I have Beth, this is I'd like to ask the same, basically a similar question to what Michael asked and what Todd was suggesting. What specific efforts have you made this year? Let's just take this year to try to raise funds from the merchants or crowdsourcing or from any donors?
I have not done any crowdsourcing.
Okay, but have you asked any of the merchants to fund this?
The baskets or the lights. I
Yes.
have not done the lights. I can
Have you
put
sent-
something out,
I'm not making a suggestion. I'm just asking, I'm just
Letters.
gathering facts. Have
No.
you sent any letters to anyone?
not at this moment.
All right.
John, I have a question. My question is, and I think Beth just answered it, there's not a process in place at this point to solicit funds. Not a formal process. It's just kind of, is that correct?
Hasn't happened yet.
I can revisit the ad with the standard and go back for the beautification piece.
Yeah, I'm even thinking more than just the ad, like really think about what a process could be for an all year long kind of process, which I would be more than happy to help with.
This is a
Okay.
valid sort of
Thanks.
discussion. We're easing into kind of
Yeah.
aspects of deliberation. This is a valid
Right.
discussion for us to have,
No, I
but we're
appreciate
just
that.
trying to get, and you can,
And if someone
participate.
wants to contact me offline to
Yeah.
talk about it,
Yeah.
I'm more than willing to try some other.
Yeah.
Have other thoughts.
Understand. Okay, are there any more questions? Any more questions in here or online? Beth, do you want to say anything? at the end?
I just want to say, I hope that you, several years ago, chippers came to us and said, we can't donate 2 full days with multiple bucket trucks, et cetera. So I reached out to my neighbor Al, who is donating his funny contraption and a bucket truck both businesses are critical to having lights in town.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
then Al donates for the Rotary Club. He donates that contraption and the bucket truck again to do the memory tree in the center of
Yeah,
town.
Amazing, Beth. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Beth.
Okay, next, so for the folks who have signed on a little later, we're not taking, well, are there any questions from, I guess we have a moment. Are there any questions from non-EDC members? Anyone here? If you do have questions and we don't get to you, put them in the chat box and we will, the applicants will follow up online.
Maybe I could can you make a comment?
Well, we're gathering information,
Okay.
really. So our meeting is before you came, we announced this.
Okay.
Our
So
meeting
sorry,
for
yeah.
deliberations where we discuss the pros and cons and why it's a good idea is next week. We're
Plus,
trying
they
to-
can use you can use the online forum too, John.
Yeah, you can use the online form. We're really trying to stick to the information gathering because we all want to express our opinions.
Patrick might have
No, I-
information. He was the board chair.
I
for-
didn't have an opinion. I was just gonna give you some information, but
Oh,
that's fine. I can-
no,
I- I can do it.
more
Information.
we don't want opinions, we'll take information.
Information is good.
Well, I would just say that sitting on the chamber for many, many years, this was the biggest pain in the arse that we've had to deal with.
What was?
The recurring,
Raising money, the reoccurring light situation. Now, you could say, is it a process? Like, how are you gonna get the process? I can tell you, after being around for years, and Beth knows, it's hard, but that doesn't preclude Beth from working harder on it. I get it. I just thought you'd like to know.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Next is Vale Field revitalization. And do you want to, are all of you for here?
No, we'll just let
Yeah,
Patrick be.
okay, but if you
He's
want
the
to
prettiest out of all of us.
John needs to come up with.
All right,
All right, just pull up an extra chair and just so
Sure.
they can see you and
Yeah.
I think people can hear you if you want. So
And yeah, if there's nothing they can answer,
Okay.
then I'll fly around next to Michael.
Any of the tough
questions. You know what? I'll come up here. You got three.
Joe's here for moral support.
Yeah, I am.
do you want to, we've read these, so do you want us to start with questions or do you have a brief, something you want to introduce it to? It's,
I got no new information unless John has something to add. I would just point out again, our philosophy here is partnership, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 raising money throughout the community, 1/3 some monies from the rec department and the town, and 1/3 from EDC.
All right, are there questions?
This is strictly baseball field, right? Not the structure that's there or anything else other than like dugouts and in the baseball infield and fencing. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, you guys did a great job with the tennis court, basketball. So I imagine this is would be.
Yeah, this
Equally
would be kind of like a
nice.
phase 2 of Phil's project, if you will. And we have Joe Swanson sitting on a committee that we meet once a month to try to keep moving and keep the town involved in it. The town will obviously need to be involved with dugout design and that type of thing to keep it historically significant and appropriate.
Any other questions? You can come back and say it
I'll come
again if you
back.
want. Joe, and then Deborah.
I think it's kind of important to clarify Vale Field. I think a lot of people don't really know what Vale Field is owned by the town. Is that correct? And it's maintained by the rec department. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if you were granted this money, right? The town owns the field, the rec center maintains it. That's where the EDC responsibility ends. Is that correct? I mean, we will have nothing to do or no responsibility with scheduling, who uses it, how they use it, when it's used, or anything like that. The EDC is just going to, if it's granted, allow you to make the modifications you want to make at the field. And that ends our responsibility there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Deborah and then Patrick.
Hi, guys. Thank you. Oh, crap. It just went off my screen. Let me pull it back up again. I wanted to understand what you were saying about the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Because I didn't have any information about the dollars and cents on what I saw. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong project, or maybe there was an attachment.
There is an attachment that is not in the printout, but it should be, I'm not
I
sure how we
didn't
get to
see
it
it.
actually
Okay.
online. Yeah.
You click the download button.
Yeah, so you have to download it. So anyway, go ahead, just ask your question, Deborah. Maybe we can.
Okay,
we won't have-
yes, no, I couldn't download it for some reason. So how is that working? It's 1/3 from us, 1/3 from, how is it going down?
We're being approximate. About $35,000, I believe, is coming from the town. We're asking for 39. The budget is 93 and change, if not, somewhere in that neighborhood. So we would raise the money for the other 1/3 is what I'm calling it, or less than 1/3.
Slightly
potentially.
less, yeah.
And we have commitment for the 35.
Yes, 38.
38 from the town,
Awesome.
which was left over from the tennis court project.
Oh, that's cool. And
And
if
you
you're not able to raise the other third, is that potential, is there in kind that could cover that?
That's what we're talking about, going down onto the street to the community. We formed a nonprofit called Woodstock Area Baseball and Sports. And we don't have the number yet because it's currently being formed, and we would go out very much like Woodstock Youth Hockey or Woodstock Lacrosse and pound the pavement for some monies.
Do you have any private donations yet?
We don't.
No, okay.
Yeah, when I was saying in kind, I meant like in kind as far as people who might be able to do the work and things like that to bring down the cost. If your, endeavors to try to raise the money doesn't come in.
Sure, yes, and we plan on constructing the dugouts. We've got several active parents that are in the trades.
Right, that's what I
And we
figured.
plan on constructing and donating that time to build the dugouts.
Thank you.
Okay, Patrick.
Okay, my questions are, what happens if you don't raise the second or the third?
Well, in life, one never knows. I would, I don't know if you know me, or John, you don't know John very well. I have a penchant for doing things. I suppose if it doesn't get done, the project gets scaled back.
Okay,
But, yeah,
that's really the question, because who knows what's going to happen in the next year.
of course.
Okay, my other question is, in your proposal, you suggested having games, from semi-pro teams and that type of thing. Is that doable via the town? Are there any rules or regulations that have to do that? Is that something that you would collect money to maintain the field? Help me understand kind of where you're thinking of. After this is beautified and so forth, you kind of had a whole nother thing that you sounded like you wanted to do. Help me understand how that works in this whole process and how the field would be maintained and so forth.
Sure. I think that while I have not looked at the rules and regulations of having celebratory events on Vale Field, maybe Joel can address that. We have been in active discussions with the Upper Valley Nighthawks CEO and the CEO of the Lake Monsters up in Burlington, who have been extremely supportive of this endeavor because of the historical nature of Vale Field. And, we've talked about, and they're very excited, and, who knows about this, but it reminds me of Union Arena. When you build it, they will come. You have the possibility of having clinics and camps and throwback games and charity games. The high school can play there. The middle school, we're already planning on having the middle school play there. So, just in terms of how that all works, Patrick, I'm not absolutely positive what permits would need to be handled, and maybe Joel can address that a little bit more.
Well,
I'm not
I
sure.
yeah, I can tell you through our insurance, anybody that would be down at the field would be covered through our insurance for liability. And I'm sure that any professional team or semi-pro team coming in carries their own liability insurance anyway. So, I don't think that should be a concern at all.
Actually, I'm not so much concerned about that as I'm concerned about whether the town will let you do it. Has there been discussion
So
with the town just to make sure that I love your vision on this, but it is, just make sure you check all the boxes to make sure that if you do this, that the town will say, oh, okay, yes, you can, or even that they're allowed to, so just that's my question. I mean, I love the whole idea of making it a destination. So
Do what?
Play
Allow
baseball
them
on
a
the
lot.
baseball field.
Huh?
Play baseball on the baseball field.
Oh,
Yeah, permit.
you mean?
yeah, I mean, it's town property, so there may be rules and regulations of what you do on town property.
Is that it?
I don't think he
Yeah, that's my last question. Just I want to make sure that we don't go through all this and make this wonderful thing.
I think Joe is putting it in the form of a question. Will the town allow the use of Vale Field for what you intend the use of the Vale Field to be?
Yes.
So I don't see any hangups with that as we.
Have they ever denied you anything?
No, and I've never had to honestly ask for approval to run any sort of sports programs or have outside camps, soccer camps come in and use Vale, or say an all-star. Look, we held an all-star lacrosse team down there one year where people were coming from Middlebury, Rutland. I mean, they were coming from all over the state. So
And you didn't
I've
need
never-
any permission?
I've never asked for approval. Hopefully that's, okay, but
just be careful when it's professional or semi-pro stuff. It might be a little different.
right. I think the logistics. So if we did have some sort of fundraiser baseball game down there that could draw a lot of fans, obviously we would go to the town. We'd talk about logistics, talk about parking, because it does become a nightmare on that street. But
Yeah, and that's something we could certainly talk to Joe about,
Absolutely.
who's part of our committee for sure.
Okay. That was my only questions, guys. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions in here, in the room? I had one.
actually, I don't think we answered all of his questions. He did ask about maintenance as well.
Yes.
I'm at the field.
Correct.
So I can tell you, all of the fields that the rec takes care of, you know, like that's our baby. We understand the aesthetics of Woodstock is pretty much number one for everybody. So we do our best. If anybody's driven down to the baseball field currently, it's pretty much impossible to keep the weeds out of that field. Once this transition happens, it's going to be very easy to maintain. We would maintain it year round. So, you know, that would be done by us, just like it is with any other field.
You know, I got one other question. Do you have any plans drawn up, anything rough idea of what you're thinking of doing? I'd love to see something like that.
If you don't mind, I could probably attest to it. I mean, so these guys, we've gone through the steps of getting contractors down there, some really nice clay materials coming in. So the field isn't going to look any different, with the exception that the current material in there is coming out. The fences that are currently there will get straightened up and fixed. Great new materials coming in, and then new bases and stuff like that.
You know, I was
so that-
thinking more from the standpoint of dugouts and stands and that type of thing. Is there any planning on what that might look like?
No, not currently, but I mean, dugouts would need to go where the current benches are. So I guess the plan would be just, you know, approval for something, you know, period appropriate, and that would be accepted by everybody in town.
We have a meeting.
A little help on a little advice on being able to pitch the other third. If you have a nice little drawing done up of what you're thinking of doing, you'll get money a lot faster.
Yep. Hear you loud and clear. We have a meeting with Craig Jewett, who's a buddy of mine, who's a town planner, on Thursday. He's going to help us present all of the materials to the town, because we're going to actually have to talk to Neil about, you know, permits and things like that. So, yep.
Okay, great.
Larry?
Yeah, I see a lot of lacrosse and soccer being played there. Nothing you're doing is going to inhibit that, is that right?
Nope.
Larry, we plan to quash lacrosse and soccer from Woodstock,
No more field hockey. either,
and
right?
baseball will become
Going back.
the mainstay. It's coming back, Larry. Just kidding.
Any other questions?
Just a fun little side note of that. I had a client who they were based in Maryland, and their baseball fields, or I should say their fields, you know, up here we have cross bats. Down there they have a lacrosse stick and a bat that cross. It's such a heavy lacrosse area that they don't battle between the two. They just say, okay, we're both here.
Okay. You've got a minute. Do you want to say anything to sum up, or are you comfortable?
No, we appreciate the consideration for the grant. I mean, I think, you know, to draw the line of economic benefit for Woodstock with improving a public space, it's a little hard to make that direct connection, but we do think that it is there. It is a real thing. You know, people will come to Woodstock for a game, and once they come to Woodstock once, they usually come back. And usually they're spending money in town too, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
All right. Now,
Just to the left.
Nicole McKeon, am I saying your name right? But I don't see her online unless she's logging on as someone else. And I know Nicole.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We have a little bit of a problem because we're ahead of schedule. And I know Nicole, everyone has confirmed they'll be here on the time that was appointed. But we're sorry, my clock says it's 12:45 in the afternoon. Is it 6:45? Okay,
Yeah.
so the minutes are correct.
We gotta go for a new chair.
You got what?
We gotta go for a new chair.
Yeah.
March
Are you wearing pajamas? John?
14th, 2022, John.
Is
Yeah,
John wearing pajamas? Maybe that's the problem.
John.
It's definitely
John.
not as fun being there virtually.
Yeah.
All right, well, you know what, why don't we, until
John has the wrongest place.
Nicole
Yeah.
comes on.
Is the next one on?
No, none of the next three. And you know what? I'm just wondering, does anyone have the email address for Wendy Krieger or Ginevra Wetmore? Am I pronouncing her name
I
right?
have Ginevra's.
I'm actually on. Hi, Ginevra. I can give you my.
Am I saying your name right?
Yes, that was amazing.
Okay.
He's still hired. Still hired.
Ginevra,
You're not losing your job, John.
would you mind going now early, and then we'll be back on schedule?
Yeah, sure, if it makes it easier.
All right, so we've read your application. Would you like to, would
Which
you
one
like
is
us
it,
to, this is,
Electric
sorry,
equipment.
electric equipment pilot project.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Would you like us to start with questions or do you want, well, I'm sorry, would you like to start with a brief statement or do you want us to just jump in with questions?
I'll go ahead and just do a brief statement if that's
right.
okay.
Yep.
Because
Is
I
this-
know
this
a lot of
Maha?
you. What?
Which one is this, guys? I'm sorry.
I'm
confused.
sorry, this is the last one of the evening, electric
Thank you.
equipment pilot project.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm an hour early.
Hey, you get the worm.
Yeah, I'm always early. Yeah, so my name is Ginevra. I am the program coordinator at Sustainable Woodstock. We're a nonprofit in town. I think a lot of you are familiar with our environment work. We have been doing a lot with the town recently. We proposed the position of the intermunicipal regional energy coordinator, which is Jeff Martin. We recently spearheaded the climate proposal that was passed on the ballot to, well, it will reduce our emissions by 12%. And we're working on a climate action plan for the town. So some really exciting stuff. And this, I think, relates to that work and is a continuation of it. The project that we are proposing with leaf blowers, electric leaf blowers and string trimmers is a one-time expense experiment with huge potential to human health and pollution, and also just to how folks experience the town of Woodstock. So that's all I wanted to kind of just open with and orient you all, but I'm happy for questions.
All right, Todd.
Thank you for bringing this to us. My question is on the cost. I have 60 acres and electric leaf blowers with my crew, and the batteries we had to get to make it work for the labor was way more money than what I see here. So I just want to make sure that with the public works folks and all that, we've really thought about people's labor versus batteries versus the amount of machines you have. Because it gets real expensive. You have someone on an 8-hour day and the batteries go out in 3 hours. They don't have the other ones to plug in and all that. So how many batteries and how many leaf blowers, and I assume these are commercial ones, are we looking at for the request here?
Yeah, so it's 2 commercial leaf blowers. One of them's a backpack, one of them's a handheld. I worked pretty closely with Elijah. He has ordered electric equipment with Echo. They make electric equipment and they will give a discount to municipalities. So you're right. Looking at when I went and budgeted this, you are exactly right that batteries are more expensive and you have to buy a larger number. So the batteries do make up the largest portion of the cost. The reason the cost is lower is because we have a 50-50 match with the town. So Elijah got some funding this year to invest in electric equipment a little bit. So it's a match with the town. So the amount we're asking for is not the full amount, it's half of it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does in a way, but how many batteries are you all looking for in this budget? Do you have any idea?
Yeah.
I do, and the exact number is not in front of me, but let me get it for you. Budget. Okay, so we are looking for with the backpack Greenworks blower, which is the only one that's not Echo equipment, we're looking for 4 batteries for that one piece of equipment.
Okay.
And for the and then we're getting 4 batteries as well for the other pieces of equipment.
Each or individually?
So 4 for the Greenworks, which is a separate battery, and then 4 batteries. Sorry, I should have clarified. 4 batteries for the Echo equipment. They all use the same battery, so that's 2 string trimmers and then 1 handheld leaf blower.
Okay.
So 4 batteries for 3 devices.
Thank you.
4 for 3 devices.
I think I would just encourage you just to see what that runtime is before and have that available for it when we go and make the decisions, just to make sure that you're not cutting yourself short for the labor portion of a day's labor of those leaf blowers. But you answered my questions. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah.
And I will.
So go ahead.
Sorry, I just was going to say I'll go back and ask. Elijah's the one with the contact with Echo, so I'll just ask him to ask them.
Okay, Deborah, then Patrick, then Joe. Go ahead, Deborah.
Hi, thank you so much for putting this one together. Do you have any data of any other municipalities who've done electric programming and like what's come of it? And if, how the environment, how the people of the towns responded, what were the savings, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, it's funny you ask. I looked up studies and there don't seem to be any academic studies answering the specific question of if a town, like what specifically they would have saved. I mean, looking at the price of gas, the savings are going to be huge right now, comparing gas to electricity. For your driving just a regular car, they estimate it's about $1.50 a gallon. So thinking of how much you use string trimmers and leaf blowers, it'll be a lot, but I don't have the exact number. And I did have some stats there about specifically emissions, that operating a gas leaf blower for an hour is making as much pollution as driving a Toyota Camry 1,100 miles. There we go. So in terms of pollution, we have good statistics.
So would you be willing, and this is just something I'm throwing out in general, and it'd be part of the conversation, but would you be willing to commit to writing a white paper about this program if we fund it, what the results were, and use it as a example of a study of what happens when you use electric equipment and et cetera for a town?
Yeah, we were already planning on writing a series of articles for the Standard, so I don't see why that couldn't, be part of that, because I'm really curious also. And I'm hoping we can do just like a little survey or an informal outreach to business owners and folks in the town to hear what they think. We've gotten a lot of complaints this year from business owners and individuals about the town's usage. So
I just think it would be cool to, okay, no opinion, but just so that the EDC would basically be funding not just the project, but the actual research of what a town can do for the environment, and actually have something, something substantial to show for it besides just the actual project. This is something to think about.
All right, Deborah, anything else?
Nope.
Patrick and then Joe.
Okay. What percent of the current equipment will this replace?
I don't know about percentage of the total, but it's a direct replacement. So it'll replace directly 2 string trimmers that they have and 2 leaf blowers.
Okay, so the question, the subplot here is, will half of the lawns be done with the electric and the other half done with gas? I want to understand a little more.
You're talking
about what percentage, which brings me to one of my other questions, which is, I don't want to use the electric one because it runs out too fast. I want to use the gas one. And so they start fighting over who does what equipment, and, does they make this program fail because, to Todd's point, there's not enough batteries and we don't like what's going on, so we don't want to use it. What's the whole process here? Is they going to be forced to use it? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, kind of, I think. No, it's a great question, and it maybe has like a sub question within it. Essentially, so Elijah, I think it's great, number one, that we've got Elijah, the director, who's spearheading this project along with us. That's really promising to me that he's already switched over to electric chainsaws and seen no pushback and has been really happy with the results. So I think you have a good example of one thing they were able to switch and people being really happy with the results. That's promising. Elijah has specific uses, I guess is the word, in mind for different things. So in terms of when they use blowers to clear wet leaves out of ditches, he is going to probably keep using gas blowers because it's a really tough job for any blower. But in terms of the other like sidewalk maintenance and lawn clearing, that's where he's looking at electric blowers. So it's more like the usage of the blower, if that makes sense.
So I would really be happy if you can talk to him and give us what the percentages are. Obviously, if there's some jobs that have to use a gas, but what percentage of replacement will this happen so that we have a sense of what, and then my other question is he going to make sure that they use it? If it doesn't work as well, my experience is people will go to the old stuff because the new stuff doesn't work so good. So to make this a true test or experiment, then there needs to be guarantee of usage. So that would be my question. And then two more questions. One is what happens? Well, will there be charging facilities on the trucks and stuff so that as one gets used, they can plug it in and charge from the truck? Again, this comes part of Todd's question of how many batteries and so forth, and making that have the most success. And then lastly, if it's successful, what's the next step?
Yeah. So I think Elijah's hope was that the batteries that we ordered would all be fully charged and that would be enough for the day. I don't know if they can be charged in the truck. We'll have chargers, obviously, but I don't know that every truck has the capability to plug in a charger. I could certainly ask him.
Yeah, I think for successful wise, either I think you're going to need more batteries or you're going to need some way of charging on the run.
And yes, and then was there a second part of that I missed? I'm sorry.
What happens if it's successful?
Oh,
How to make it sustainable in the future. Sorry,
Yeah, what happens if the program? What happens if your experiment is a success?
Yeah, well, no, it's a great question. Magical things happen, but it's seriousness. This is something that Elijah wants to do already, and it's a direction we should be heading in. It's just that the funding isn't quite there, and there's an element of unknown. So if we can kind of secure the element of unknown and get this equipment already being used, I think as we go into phasing out other equipment that is gas powered or powered by carbon fuels, we'll be able to trust and phase it out with electric equipment as we go forward. The town will, that is.
Okay, so the town will plan in their budget to have.
Yeah, and this is something Jeff Martin is already thinking about in terms of the future, as equipment needs to be phased out.
Okay, that's it for me.
Joe, and then I have a quick question. Okay.
Hi, thank you for presenting this. If I understand correctly, they're already using chainsaws,
Electric change.
electric chainsaws, is that correct?
At least one. I'm not sure if they have two, but yes, at least one.
So it sounds like Elijah's head is headed in that direction. Anyway, is that accurate?
Yeah.
So at some point, I mean, if funding was available through the town, he would probably make the conversion through the town, would he not? Or am I reaching far yet?
No, yeah, you're correct. If the funding had come through all the way this year, he would have, I think, gone ahead and done this if he was able.
Is it fair to assume that at some point the town will make the switch anyway?
Yeah, you could say within the next 5 years.
Thank you.
Ginevra, I have a quick question. Have you approached Green Mountain Power for funding for this kind of project?
No, I haven't.
Okay, thank you.
I am unaware of whether they fund municipalities, but I'd be open to.
Michael?
Hi, thanks for presenting. Look, personally, I've gone electric and I know, I'll tell you right now.
No advocacy.
I'm sorry, but they are quieter.
Okay.
But my question is, can you help me understand the connection of this project to economic development?
To economic development, yeah. So it's been really interesting the past year, especially this past fall. I got a number of complaints from citizens about the use of gas powered blowers and how disruptive they were. One from a man who has an office in town. And then we have a very committed board member who's part of our energy and climate action group, who has done some outreach to a few local cafes, and then one inn, and as well as the Norman Williams Library, who actually switched away from gas blowers at the end of the season. But these people are basically telling us that it's difficult to have a business where people are drinking coffee outdoors, for instance, or who are staying at an inn for a relaxing weekend and who are hearing this really horrible and grating noise. Is a lot of feedback I've gotten this past year. And other towns in Vermont, Burlington especially, banned the use of gas powered blowers for this reason, because they're so disruptive. So in terms of how people perceive the town and their enjoyment of being in Woodstock, I think it has a really direct link besides the environmental impact.
follow-up question. Have you approached the select board to ban gas-powered leaf blowers?
No, we haven't.
Thank
Not
Yeah.
banned in California.
All right. Okay, Ginevra, thank you for switching the order, but now we're actually, well, no, I don't want to.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the,
Yeah, thank you for the
presentation.
presentation. Actually, I think we haven't, we started not quite on the hour, so you've got a couple minutes left. Do you want to make any closing statement or are you comfortable?
No, I'm comfortable.
Closing
Thanks for your
statement makes it
question.
sound too formal. Do you have any other comments?
Yeah, it does. No, my only comments are that I'll check up with Elijah on some of your questions, but thank you all.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. All right, we're a couple minutes behind. No, actually, we're sort of ahead.
Oh, geez.
No, we're not behind. We're
Oh.
on schedule. Let's, one of the
Yeah,
three.
we're
We're either ahead,
behind,
behind,
doesn't
or on
We're
schedule.
ahead. No, we're on
Yeah.
schedule.
We're somewhere.
Yeah, we are, right. We're somewhere in there.
He must be.
Nicole
Is he
McKeon.
tired?
I see
He had
Nicole
a
is
long
on.
walk.
Now,
Yeah.
there you are.
I-
Would-
I've also asked Jess LaPearl to join. Jess is the president of the Woodstock Youth Hockey Association. So we're both here representing this grant request.
Terrific. This is the Woodstock Varsity Hockey Ice Fund. We have your proposal. We've read it. Do you want to just to start with questions, or do you want to make a short statement to start and then we'll go ask questions? It's up to you.
I guess the only thing that I would say is that in looking at the purpose of the Economic Development Commission, I think that your entire purpose is what the Woodstock Youth Hockey Association and our hockey programs here in the town are already doing. And so I think it's a really great fit. And I hope that you guys will also see this as a good fit for the kinds of grants that you're proposing to give out in town. So that's all I would say. We're happy to answer any questions, and that's why I have Jess here, because we're gonna double team the questions here, because I'm sure some of them are going to relate back to our relationship with Woodstock Youth Hockey.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions, Michael?
I just have a quick question. Why is game ice so much more expensive than practice ice?
Because games are longer than practices. Practices are only 1 hour long. Games, high school games, are 3 20-minute periods with 10 to 12 minutes between each period, during which the ice is cleaned. And then, of course, if the game goes into overtime, which oftentimes this year they did, there's extra a cost there as well.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Patrick, and then I have a question, but maybe others. Go ahead, Patrick.
Well, first, congrats on the girls' team winning the state championship.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, that's quite a feat. My question is basic. How does this bring money, to town / help businesses in town? To bring it back to the economic development side of what the EDC is about.
Sure. Do you want to start, Jess, and I'll chime in? Okay.
Sure. I think that answer is really twofold. The first part of that is each of our 4 Woodstock youth hockey teams has 4 games a week, or has 4 sheets of ice a week. So we host out of town teams 4 times every single week. And those teams are in town, they've traveled, they're buying gas, they're getting sandwiches at the farmer's market, they're buying chocolate milks for their kids after their game and really contributing to what happens here in town. The varsity games pull in significantly bigger crowds when we're allowed to do so in the pre or post-COVID world. It's pretty common for us to have 200 or so spectators as part of that. And those spectators also are traveling from out of town and are really having dinner while they're here, or getting gas or doing those things. We also host a minimum of 1, a maximum of 3 tournaments a year. We're hosting one next weekend. It will bring 36 teams into Woodstock. So they will be having lodging, eating dinners, traveling while they're here. So it's a significant amount of people that we're bringing into town, directly connected to youth sports.
And have you approached people for sponsorship of Ice Time?
Yeah, and we did a lot of that this year in particular, but we've always We've always had sponsors. We've always done fundraising. And as you can imagine, some of the difficulty that we're having right now is directly related to the COVID situation, because we weren't able to have spectators. Some of the businesses that we would typically get to sponsor ads in our programs and sponsor other things for us are also struggling because of COVID, and so haven't been able to be quite as generous as they have been in the past. We have reached out and we were able to get, former families, hockey families donated money for ice time this year. We had a couple of businesses in town who have donated money to pay for ice time as well. And I just wanted to sort of go back to what Jess was touching on in terms of the kinds of impact that these programs have on businesses in town. I would also remind you guys, if you're not aware, that the ice is put back in for a period of time during the summer. And there are multiple camps that are hosted, where there are people who come from as far as my kid has been in camps there since we moved here in 2013. We've met families from as far as, way up in Ottawa, Canada, Florida, kids who come here who are maybe grandparents, their grandparents live here, and now the family comes up for vacation. Now they're sending their kid to camp. And also, I think we shouldn't forget that Union Arena is a business in town as well. And so we are also supporting that business. The building, the Union Arena building, does function as a community center for our population here as well. So I think it's sort of, it's a twofold support that we're giving, not just to the businesses in town. And I would say you go into Saturday morning into the farmers market, and you will find that half of the people who are in the farmers market are hockey parents getting coffee. So lots of good stuff coming out of a really great grassroots program that was built from really the entire effort, the entire building, the arena is there because of parents who sat down at a table and said, how can we do this for our kids? And it has grown out through there. And like you said, we now have teams who we've been state champions on the boys' side. We're now state champions on the girls' side. This is a program that has sustained itself through some really tough times where the Union Arena has been having a hard time paying the light bill, and we've still managed to sustain it. And this is the first time that we've had to come to the EDC to ask for some help.
Well, that leads to my next question is, do you see this as a one-time need, a one-year need?
I think that our plan, and Jess, you can chime in here, but I think we have been having discussions amongst both the varsity teams, the Woodstock Youth Hockey, the administration of the high school, and various other stakeholders to really build out a way that we can make this more sustainable for everyone, because we have other goals. We want to make sure that we're able to offer hockey to anybody who wants to play hockey. Not just the families who can afford it. And that's sort of the difficulty that we run into, because there is no pay to play in the state of Vermont. It is forbidden by the VPA. And so the donations that parents make are just that, a donation. And we have families who simply cannot afford to make that donation. And we feel like very strongly that would be really a shame for kids to not be able to play simply based on their family's economic status. And that's one of the things that we've talked a lot about in terms of the future and how we're going to address that. And just, I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Well, but the question is this a one-year need, or is this something you're going to be coming to the EDC on a regular basis for? That's really my question.
We hope it's a one-year need. This year was a bit of a crux of a problem for us because of COVID, and we haven't been able to run our tournaments for the last 2 years. So that is kind of what fits together some of the sustainability for us. The other challenge that happened is we found out this year that we're no longer going to be able to request donations from parents. We are the only school district in the school that, or in the state, that doesn't have a direct funding source for our high school varsity hockey programs. we're not, the Union Arena isn't owned by the municipality. The varsity ice isn't paid for by the school budget, and there's no appetite for the school budget to be able to do that. So we're going to spend a lot of time this summer figuring out how we're going to make up that deficit now that we can't ask parents to contribute anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Todd, Marion, then Joe.
Thanks for bringing this. Are you aware that last week the school budget approved $30,000 to Union Arena for repairs? Of $100,000 requested, and the other 60,000 is being considered.
So the school owns Union Arena, the building,
No,
but they don't.
I just want to get to a point, but are you aware of the monies that the schools contribute, the school budget contributes to the Union Arena specifically?
Yes.
So I would say that my question is then, I'm not sure, I haven't heard about the parent funding. I'm on the school board. I'm very interested to hear more about that. But my question is, if you look at this, are you presenting this as a COVID situation where you used to have this money, it wasn't a problem for this important item in our town, and now because of COVID, you're looking at this as a stopgap to sort of get back to basics? Or as Patrick asked, are you saying it's all broken and you don't see a way forward without continual funding? Because I think what's important to understand for us to make a good decision is, I have not seen a budget for the Union Arena. I know the school board's requested and hopefully we'll get it. Could you provide the budget for the Union Arena's operating to us so that we can help understand what money is being spent where, so we consider this grant for the important aspect of the kids playing hockey on that ice?
Mhm. Union Arena is a sister organization to us, so we're joined at the hip when one of us can't survive without the other, but we're not able to provide those financials. I'm certainly happy to put you in touch with the people that are able to do so.
I think it's important to clarify, though, that the budget that is allocated for the Union Arena has absolutely no impact on the ice cost. None of that money goes towards funding any hockey. And we don't have enough time to explain the intricate details of the way that what was negotiated when the building was built happened. But I think it's very important for everybody here to understand that that $30,000 that's going to the Union Arena will not touch any piece of hockey directly.
But just to be clear, you don't have the budget to present to us. You really don't know how the Union Arena's budget works. That's just what I'm asking. I'm not saying that anything about my feelings on this idea. I'm just saying that I find it hard to swallow
but to be
where
clear,
the money goes.
We're just saying, we just want to know what the budget is.
Just want to know what the budget is. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I'm happy to provide that, but I'm just trying to clarify that the budget for Union Arena doesn't have anything to do with the budget for ice hockey in Woodstock. They do not touch each other at all.
I think we understand that.
Okay, Marion, Joe, and then Deborah.
So I always have two questions. So I have two questions. The first is, you mentioned that there are camps, tournaments, programs from out of town. I assume that they pay to use the facilities. I guess I'm confused if we would in a way be subsidizing those camps or those programs if the ice isn't running at a profit on its own. I mean, do you charge them enough to break even? Or I guess that's the question.
Yes, all of those programs are in the black for sure.
But part of, I mean, having the ice available, I would think, I mean, I don't, maybe I'm complete, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I would think that having the ice available and in proper condition is part of the cost of running these programs. And if they don't pay enough, like if this were a profitable, a for-profit business, they would have to pay enough that the space and the ice could be maintained. Or am I missing a piece of that puzzle?
So I think that maybe is a question that the Union Arena staff would have to answer. We are charged for ice by the hour, and the hour of the day impacts the amount of charge. So like the varsity teams practice 4 times a week at 6 a.m. And that's a significant savings for us to be able to have them practice then. I think it's almost $100 less than if they practiced at, 6 in the afternoon or 6 in the evening. So the way that Union Arena creates their budget and charges different programs is outside of the scope of what we do. We get charged for the ice that we use. We make decisions on what times we schedule so that we can afford it.
Got it. I guess I
okay.
was confused because you mentioned in terms of economic development
Mhm.
that I thought that those camps and programs were something you hosted, since that was something you mentioned there, but sounds like
You
that's
don't run the
separate.
camps. Is that?
We do not run the camps.
So this money wouldn't actually fund those programs in any way.
No, we were
Okay.
just speaking broadly about how hockey impacts
Got it.
the local
Okay.
community.
So thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, like, we're asking all these questions, but as a resident, a community member, I want to thank you for all the time you put in. I know we're not supposed to express opinions, but we're allowed to be critical. And I don't want to be critical and that only critical.
We're
So
not
I
being
do have
or
second
supportive.
question.
We're just trying to gather facts. So
Yeah,
you should
yeah.
have it. We're asking questions of every applicant. So don't, this is not good or bad. We're just
Right.
gathering information.
Right. Thank you for
And-
saying that
and-
better.
We're
And
doing
to
our
be-
job.
I do
and to
have a
be
second
clear-
question.
And to be
Sure.
clear, that the arrangement between the arena and the school and the Woodstock Youth Hockey and varsity hockey, it's a very complex arrangement. It's like it's not something that is simple to understand. It's taken me 5 years to understand it. So I still
So the second part of my question might be just as difficult to answer, but it sounds like your organization does support, because you mentioned high school varsity hockey. I guess I would be interested to know how the support and the funding for varsity hockey or other high school and school sports in town, how that compares to funding or support for other sports. Like I mean, this is kind of where my head is going, is if the EDC is paying money that would support one team, would it be fair to support other teams in some way? Or how does your funding compare?
So I'm speaking a bit out of scope, and I'm still learning. I've asked a lot of questions in the last year. But my understanding is that the school pays the same amount for all of the sports. So they pay for referees, they pay the salary for the coach, and they pay for school buses to get to away games. I don't know if there's any other budget beyond that to
But I guess my question is, obviously the program needs funding, and you mentioned one of the beneficiaries of the funding would be the varsity high school athletes. So in a way, we would be funding them.
Right. So I think the difference for ice hockey is like field hockey. They're not paying for the surface that they're playing on. The ice just happens to be expensive to run. I'm not sure how the school handles the sports that require like the Nordic ski team or the snowboard team. Like, I don't know how they do that requires a pass to be able to ski, or for tennis. I just am not sure how that works.
Thank you for answering all those. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Hi, hey, thank you for making this application. As I understand it, the reason there's a revenue shortfall is because of the COVID restrictions. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are the restrictions still in place?
Yeah, the season is done, so the restrictions spread right through the whole season.
Right. So do you anticipate the restrictions will be in place next season?
I sure hope not. I'm
really
ready
on the
to get
creek
rid of my
number,
mask.
I mean,
Yeah.
given the direction of, the lessening of mandates and other restrictions are being dropped, I would think the restrictions may not be in place next year. I'm wondering if
Your voice has
that's
to
a
go up at the
correct
end.
assumption.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay, I think they've answered your question, right?
Yeah.
You're assuming that the restrictions will not be in place. Is that correct?
That's our hope, yes.
Thank you
Sorry.
for the non-leading question.
All right. Do you have another?
No, I do not. I wouldn't dare.
A couple quick questions. Patrick and Deborah, can you lower your hand? Oh, sorry, Deborah was next. I apologize.
Yeah.
Then I'll go.
No worries.
Deborah,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to
One
make
more
sure you
question
thought.
too, John.
Yeah, well, if we have time, Patrick, go ahead,
Yep.
Deborah.
Okay, thank you very much for this. I'm looking forward to watching the girls, the women. So appreciate it. You mentioned something about you can't go to the parents anymore. I got confused with
Right.
some of the back and forth. So I wanted you to clarify what the issue is there, why, if that's going to change, how it's affected you, all of those kind of things. I want to understand that more. Thank
Right.
you.
It's a really good question and sort of the crux of what keeps me awake at night right now. So our original shortfall was specifically because of COVID. The varsity program was able to run sustainably for two reasons: because of parent donations, because of gate fees, and because of selling programs. With COVID restrictions, we weren't able to get the same. We raised about $6,000 a year in gate fees, and we raised about $6,000 a year in selling ads in the programs and selling the programs. And because of COVID and the significant limited spectators, we weren't able to get that $12,000 that we have depended on. So that was the crux of the problem this year. In years past, we've been able to kind of backfill any shortcomings with our tournament dollars. And because of COVID, we haven't been able to run tournaments in either 2020 or 2021. So we didn't have any extra money that we normally would. So that's what started us down the path of applying to the EDC. Since we've started asking questions and, digging up holes and, just as we learn more, what we actually found is that the school lawyer is uncomfortable with us asking directly for parent donations. So we no longer are able to ask for donations for parents to play. So that will be a problem for next season that we're going to spend this summer figuring out. The lawyer feels like it's too close to the pay to play laws, and we need to steer clear of that. So that is a new problem that we created as we asked questions and as we tried to learn more.
I'm just curious, the ads in the pamphlets or whatever they're called, the programs, could that be a way that parents pay, by buying an ad saying like, good luck, James, good luck, Jackie, you know what I mean? It's like, has that already been happening, or is that something you can expand on in order to get over this lawyer thing?
Yeah, we definitely have done that for many years. We did it again this year. The challenge is going to be in years past, parents have paid between $500 and $900 a year as their donation. And it's really hard to get somebody to do an ad for $900.
Yep, got it.
I think though there is, I think that the donation.
Sorry, can I cut you off from the call, because I think you've answered the question, and we're actually quite a bit past the time now, and I've got a question, and I think Patrick may have another one. So unless is that all right, because it's something new, or I think we have the gist of what you're saying, if that's okay. I just have a couple quick questions. Number one, just on this funding thing, is it true that that every community in Vermont does not raise funds from parents because of legal concerns? In other words, there are nowhere in Vermont does anyone raise money from the community because of legal concerns. Is that correct? Or are there some communities that do?
I don't think it's raise money from the community. I think it's require parents to pay for their children to play a sport.
Yeah.
But you said donate. You said a donation, which is not, by definition, is not required. So I'm confused. Were you unable to charge parents to play, or are you unable to ask parents for voluntary donation?
The school lawyer said that asking parents for a donation is too close to the pay to play.
A voluntary donation. Are there any communities in Woodstock that you know of? Any communities in Vermont that you know of that ask members of the community to voluntarily donate to a hockey program?
I think broadly there is donations for ice, but I don't think that there is any, as far as I know, there isn't any other community that doesn't have a formal way of paying for their varsity ice hockey programs. The rinks are either owned by the municipality and the funding is created through that, or it's in the school budget.
So there are, so as a result of that, perhaps for whatever reason, there are no other communities that solicit donations to support hockey in any way.
I think in general, youth hockey is different from varsity, so I don't want to misspeak
Oh,
there.
I see. Okay, all right.
Youth hockey definitely has fundraisers and they sell popcorn and coupon books and, you know, all of those things. But the
It's-
varsity hockey program is.
All right.
It's the Vermont Principals Association. So it's when you get into varsity hockey that it's a team that is sponsored by the high school. That's when you start to run into the problem because it's the rule of the VPA that there is no pay to play.
No, I understand. Okay. I'll explore this offline. One last question is the program, sorry, for varsity hockey? I don't have kids in the school system. Is the varsity hockey team accept players from all of the 7 towns that are part of the high school? It's just Woodstock. It's the whole thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Very quick question. Since the parents aren't going to be able to pay, what's that shortfall number going to be?
About 15,000.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I did have one last question. This funding is for ice time fees for February and March. We're halfway done with March. So what will happen if you don't get this grant?
Jess, I think the number is more than 15,000. It's 15,000 for one team. It's 30,000.
Right.
for
It's
both teams,
it's
the shortfall.
34,000 for both teams. The shortfall is the parent donations that we won't receive.
So what will happen if, who paid the ice for February, or is it just an outstanding bill? What will happen if you don't receive the grant? That's my question.
We will be knocking on more business doors and asking for help as we go.
And continue to fundraise like we always have. And hopefully, that will open up more next year because of the COVID restrictions being lifted.
Okay, understand. Okay, we are out of time, so no time to make a kind of a closing statement, but I think you've answered a lot of questions. So thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
that. This is a complicated, and I think you did a good job answering the questions.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And the tone of this is, it's questioning. That's what we're doing. We're interrogating. So don't read anything into it. Right.
Thanks so much.
Everyone's got the same treatment. You guys aren't special. Everyone's been interrogated.
Right. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for
We
your time.
appreciate your time. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we are on our last item tonight because we already did Ginevra's proposal for the electric equipment. So the last item tonight is, so now we're turning to just the things that don't fit into some of the other buckets, although they do fit in, what's it called? Oh, the Woodstock Nursery School, sorry. So Wendy, is it Wendy Krieger? And where is Wendy? Oh, there you are. Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Wendy. Hi, sorry.
Wendy, we have all read your applications, so if you'd like, we can jump in with questions, or if you'd like to say something briefly at the beginning, you're welcome to. It's up to you.
Just really quick. My co-teacher, Gertrude Swacco, is here too. And we just want to thank you all for your hard work during this process. We know it's very long, and we appreciate it. There is one thing under the project budget. I don't know if you guys have our application in front of you. But under the expense category in the new hire total, it says 13,000. That should say 23,000. And that was my error. So 23,000 total would be for the new hire for the 2022-23 school year. That's being part-time. And then so 20,000 would come from us as the applicant through tuition. We caught that today when we were looking it over. So just wanted to clarify.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions for Wendy? Todd? Oh,
No.
you're waving goodbye.
I got a question.
All right. Michael,
So
and then I
is this money for the new hire? Is that for someone, is that a brand new position?
It is.
Or is that someone that had to leave because your enrollment was cut in half? And so you're reestablishing that position that was lost, or, did you guys make any staffing cuts during COVID because the enrollment was down?
So this past year, we went from 3 teachers to 2 teachers due to enrollment. And then this new hire, we foresee it being a totally new person. So we wouldn't be hiring the teacher that left last year. We'd be looking for a new candidate.
But it's the same position that was there pre.
Yes, so I'm the director and lead teacher, and then there's 2 assistant teachers. Miss Gertrude being one, and then we would be looking to hire another.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking is you're not expanding the services offered from before. You're kind of like,
Technically, no. So our license is for 20 children to be in our building at one time. Our enrollment currently is 14. And our current enrollment for the 2022-2023 school year is at 21. And I just got 4 more emails of people sending me applications. So legally, we can have 20 children in the building at one time, but we would need another staff member to do that.
okay.
So you're growing back to what you were at under
We
your
are
current.
exploding actually at the moment, yes.
But you were
So-
maxed out before COVID, is that correct? At 20 students?
Correct.
And then
So
you
before
dropped down.
COVID, we had 24 students enrolled. And I think the max each day we had was 18.
And the reason for the grant is because of the decrease in income and revenue from the last year because of the loss of enrollment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Deborah?
Hi, thank you so much for putting this through. So I want to hear a little bit of the story so I understand it a little bit, but your clarity, you clarified a bunch with Michael's questions. But in addition to wanting to understand what happened to you in this last year, is there a way to grow this business? Is there a need to grow this business? This is the only game in town, correct? So it's like everybody's kind of counting on you. How do you see, okay, it's not, I'm asking. And how do you see the possibility of growth? How will this help that, et cetera?
Sure. So pre-COVID, our enrollment was 24. Going into COVID, starting the 2020 school year, I think we had 9. We ended last year with 12. And so all of our funding comes from tuition. So basically our tuition was cut in half overnight. Understandably, people wanted to keep their children home. You know, we didn't know what was happening. Going into this school year, kind of the same thing. The public school opened a new classroom. So there's 3 preschool classrooms at West. But with the influx of people moving here, there's still a high demand for early education. So if anyone of you are familiar with early education, it's not a very functioning business plan. You really rely on tuition. And so before we moved to the Little Theater, we were in the St. James Church, and our rent was a tiny fraction of what it is now. So when we moved to the Little Theater in 2019, we actually raised our tuition rates because we knew that our rent was going to be higher. That being said, with tuition being cut in half, we now still have this, standing dollar amount that is due every month with half the income. And so now we don't have a cushion. Typically we would have a cushion because we usually have a larger enrollment. So we've been surviving basically on COVID grants that end, of course, this year. And so those grants have allowed us to continue to keep our doors open. A lot of things have changed since the beginning of the pandemic. When the pandemic first started, we needed singular everything. So singular markers, singular, every child had to have their own stuff. We hired a private professional cleaner, just all sorts of different things that weren't part of the budget that these grants helped cover. But now we're going into the next year without these grants and we need to hire a new teacher. So basically we have higher overhead costs and lower income coming in. There's a huge demand in the community for our services. Many people have reached out, and the problem is, and I'm sure many of you have heard this, but there are not very many licensed early education teachers in this area, or people that are willing to work for the wages that we're currently paid. And anyone who receives a bachelor's degree in early education is the lowest bachelor's degree career-wise payment you can get. So basically what we're looking for from the EDC is just a little bit of cushion to take our rent off the table so that we can operate more freely and make sure that we hire a good candidate by giving them a salary that they can actually survive on in our community.
And according to your plan, where are you going to be next year? Do you feel like you're going to need more grants later, or does this?
We are hoping not. Basically, you know, with kind of I don't know what word I want to use, but the lessening of COVID restrictions and people becoming more comfortable, we feel that like our enrollment will return to pre-pandemic numbers. But it's really just to kind of get us through this transitional year. And yeah, I mean, Miss Gertrude, if I forgot anything or you want to hop on, please feel free.
I think you've got everything. You've said everything we've talked about. There definitely is a huge demand in the community. I mean, everyone I talk to that has kids needs a preschool, and we're pretty much the only option other than Wes, but Wes is always full. So we need more spots for kids and we need another teacher.
Thank you very much.
Patrick, sorry, Marion, oh, so Patrick? Who's raised their hand besides Patrick? Anybody? Patrick and then Todd. Okay.
I put my hand down. Thank you.
Oh, okay, that's what I was confused. Patrick and then Todd.
Okay, I'm curious at how you can only have 20, but you have 24 students. How does that work?
Oh, they don't all come on the same day.
Oh, okay, so you have rotating schedule.
Yeah, so Act 166 is part of our funding, and that's 10 free hours of early education paid for by the state. So many families just take that 10 hours. So they come 2 mornings a week, 8 to 1. And then we have an aftercare program that other families choose to use as well. So 8 to 4 is our full day operating hours. But our max in the building for one day is 20 legally.
Okay, and are you in a lease? And if you are, how long is the lease?
That would be a question for our board. I honestly didn't get a chance to look at it. But my understanding is that it's just a rotating, like it doesn't actually end. That's my understanding. But I can get back to you with the particulars on that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just the quick answer. And then is it possible for you to move to a new space that you could handle more or get the rent lowered or combination thereof?
I think off the top of my head, we love our space. We don't want to leave our space. The bottom of the little theater has we're protected, you know, nobody can see us. We're safe. We have a great little play space. We'd love to add to it, but you know, we can walk right to the river. We walk to Faulkner Park. We walk to Vale Field, like always outside. And I mean, I think that's something Miss Gertrude and I were discussing today. Like our rent technically goes to the Woodstock Rec Center. That's who we pay. And so I'm not sure how those funds are then allocated, like if they go back to the town or if they stay with the rec center and then fund other programs. But I think
have you approached them on lowering the rent?
So when we first started in 2019, our rent was $1,300, and the agreement was that it goes up $200 every year. So it started at 13, then 15, and now it's at 17. And then our board president is lovely, and she's a lawyer, and so I'm hoping that she can kind of help me negotiate in the future. But right now we're trying to get our bases covered as best we can. Yeah.
Okay, and then last question is, how does this relate to economic development, which is what our task is here at the EDC?
Absolutely. So I guess I'll give a little bit of a personal story, but my daughter was going to Rainbow. She lost her infant care spot, and she was home for a month. Luckily, we got her in at Woodstock Christian, but my husband had to leave his job for a month so that he could stay home and watch her. And I think that situation, I've talked to many families, that it just reverberates out into the community. If you can't find childcare for your child, your family can't provide livable wages to live in this community. And so the reason like that we're asking for this is so that we can continue to stay open and provide this service that the families in our community need.
Okay,
So that would be.
thanks. Those are the questions I had.
Thanks, Patrick. Todd?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Look, I'm a small business owner. I know it's hard, but if your number one cost outside of labor is the rent.
Yep.
I just want to be clear that you didn't go for rent reduction during COVID. Your board didn't go and ask for rent reduction or any of that when every company in the world practically did in the United States.
No, I had no idea that was an option.
Well, it is, and it still is. And I think that it'd be great if you talk to your board and
Yep.
you ask them to talk to the landlord and let us know what you might be able to do about that for us to help make our decision.
Okay.
Also, have you looked at for your business? They're closed. I just checked, but the IDL stuff and the SBA programs from the government, they gave $10,000 to many businesses like yourself. That doesn't have to even be repaid. Have you gone and had your board look into the EIDL and SBA programs to help your situation?
I have not. I do know that we've received 2 grants from the federal government. Actually, one from the federal and one from the state. And I don't know the acronyms are that for them. I think SBA is what you mentioned. But we applied in 2020 and then it got forgiven later in 2020.
So that you did apply for the things
PPP
that-
round 1 or
yeah,
whatever.
You
Yeah.
did likely. apply
That's
for what
good.
Todd said.
So I would just say for me, I'd love to know more information on that. Come whenever you can provide it on what your landlord's willing to do for your rent situation. And if they're willing to do nothing and that's the answer, that is what it is. But if we can get any more information on that, that would be fantastic.
Okay, and not to sound silly, but just ask her for a rent reduction, like just see if that's something that she's willing to negotiate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, literally just ask.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do that. I just didn't know it was an option.
Michael?
Yeah, one more question. When parents come in and they enroll their child, how do they pay? Are they paying each session, each day, by the week, or do they prepay for the 6 months or something like that?
Yeah, great question. So we ask families to pay on the 1st of the month. Everyone pays through check. And we actually just added it into our family handbook this year that there is a $50 a day late fee because it's become where our income isn't coming in on time. So we've actually changed it in our parent handbook where our tuition is due the first Friday of every month. And then it's $50 every day after that. And your child can't come until it's paid in full.
So
Because
they're if it's the first Friday of the month, they're prepaying for that month?
Correct.
Okay. And is that, so what happened during COVID? If they prepaid and they withdrew their child, did you have to refund that money, or what's the understanding there? Is that something that you guys keep?
When we shut down in March of 2020, all tuition stopped until September 1st is when we reopened 2020.
But there were no refunds.
Yeah, do
No.
you refund? Yeah, okay.
We don't give refunds, but people only pay
Month
the
at a
first
time.
of the month by month. So they don't pay the whole, I mean, they could if they wanted to, but I've never seen anyone do that.
Okay. Wendy, or do I have to call you Miss Wendy? And I'm happy to, if that's the way you're.
There's no children, so Wendy is fine.
Well, I'm calling Miss Gertrude. So Miss Wendy, who are the suppliers besides the Woodstock Elementary School and you? Isn't there another childcare, the one
Rainbow?
Yep, so there's the Rainbow Play School.
Rainbow,
uh,
right?
And
Congregational church.
And the Congregational Church.
yep, and there's Woodstock Christian. Correct.
Is that
Woodstock what?
Woodstock Christian? Is
That's in
that
that's in the Congregational Church.
okay, fine. So there are 4. Okay.
Yeah,
And as far as you know, okay. I just want to make sure I understand the, so pre-COVID, you had an enrollment of 24 with 18 people in, so you were kind of very close to your maximum. You had you were paying 3 teachers.
Correct.
Right, and you were breaking, you were keeping your head above water in that situation.
Yep.
And you now currently, you're looking at enrollment of 21 to 25, right? 21 plus 4 that you've just received.
Correct.
And that presumably doesn't exceed yet. It comes very close to 20 in the building at one time, but you can handle the 21 plus 4.
As long as we hire another teacher. So
Right.
Ms. Green and I
You get
can't.
Right.
Right.
So with the 21 plus 4, you'd have 18 to 20 maximum in the building. You're kind of roughly maxed out, and you would need 3 teachers. Why doesn't the tuition? Why doesn't the post-COVID? It's exactly what you were in pre-COVID. 24 enrollment, 18 to 20 in the building, 3 teachers. Now you've got 25 enrollment, 18 to 20 in the building. Why can't you pay for 3 teachers?
Because
So the
Rent is a
way,
little bit higher.
hold on, go ahead.
Your rent is a little bit higher because it's gone up $200 a year through COVID, which, but well, anyway, maybe someone can advise offline about how to do that. But so anyway, why can't you pay now? If you were paying for exactly this situation pre-COVID, why post-COVID won't you be able to keep your head above water? Why do you?
Well, we will once we get the income from our incoming class. But currently we don't have a cushion to then pay for. So if I have enrollment of 25 students, I need to have 3 teachers, but I need to be able to pay that teacher. So I need to have a teacher before I can enroll my students. Now that I'm enrolling my students, I have to find this teacher. I need to be able to give this teacher a livable wage.
But you
so
don't
that
need.
they can
But you don't need to.
program.
But you don't need to pay the teacher for a full year. You'll be getting.
No, I don't. You're right.
How long would you need funding to pay? So your shortfall is really just the period of time between
Ramp up.
It's maybe
Correct.
a couple of months of salary in order to.
Correct.
Right. So how much is a couple of months of salary? It's not
So
20.
23 would be the full year and we operate on a 10-month.
So if you had a grant of $5,000, if someone wrote you a check for $5,000 from us or a donor or your landlord, you would basically could then go out, hire the person. You'd be pretty confident that you'd have the revenue to pay for them. And and it might take you a month to get all these applications processed and people in. But then from that point in time, you would be operating with your head of, you wouldn't be swimming in funds, but you'd be on a break-even basis, just like you were pre-COVID. Is that correct or not?
I'd have to do like the exact numbers, but yes, that's the
Conceptual.
goal,
Yeah.
is to have basically a Band-Aid fund to get us over the hump so that we can continue to operate.
Okay, I have one. Okay.
I have one question.
Okay, Joe, 1 second, but I have one other question.
Sure.
And I want to. What efforts would it take, and by whom, to come to the EDC with a proposal to double your capacity?
Mm-hmm.
What would it take to double our capacity?
No. What effort would it take to come up with a plan to double your capacity? I'm not asking you to answer tonight what that plan would be. I'm asking you, if you were to put together a project,
What would be the process?
what would be the process and who would be involved and how long would it take so that you could come back to the EDC and say, those numbers we had 24, 18, 3, we want them to be 48, 36, 6. And here's how we're going to do it. And here's what it'll cost. How long would it take you to do that? And who would have to be involved to come up with the ideas to put those plans together?
That's a great question. It would require a monstrous amount of effort and energy by basically myself. And maybe I'm interpreting your question wrong, but basically to open a new center, like our space can handle 20 kids, we need a larger space. We need more licensed teachers. And we'd need people willing to do the work is really what it comes down to.
And you need money.
And you need money. Yeah, of course you need money. But what it comes down to is you need people willing to do the work.
Remember, this is a country that sent people to the moon.
Right.
And I'm not being serious about that.
Yeah.
So this problem, while difficult, is not as hard as that.
Right.
And
Correct.
I'm not, by the way, I am supporting you, not criticizing you. But I'm asking this question and I'd just like you to reflect on it. It's not really relevant for this grant process between now and March 24th. But I'd just like you to reflect on it. I'm happy to talk to you about it offline. And not just you, by the way, the other 3 providers as well. Have the 4 of you ever met, the 4 organizations ever met as a group to talk about overall capacity? And then I'll
Wes is a public school, so that's different. Rainbow and Woodstock Christian and myself and Miss Gertrude, we are the private sector of early ed. I've spoken with the director at Rainbow, the old director, Lori, and the new director, and Ruth and I talk all the time at Woodstock Christian. But the problem that we all run into is finding teachers. I mean, that's why my daughter's infant room closed. And then, I mean, Rainbow has lost 6 teachers since September started.
Yeah, no, I understand. But sorry, if the tone of my questions makes it sound like, you guys are idiots. Why don't you just hire all these teachers for free and increase the capacity? I completely understand. I'm just saying that it's a question.
It's a larger problem than a one-time fix is what you're.
I understand. Okay, let's go Joe and then Deborah. And I think
Well,
we're probably out of time.
John, thank you for that
Yeah, thank you, John.
pointed question. It was dealing on many levels. And I'm not supposed to comment on how I feel about critical daycares, so I won't.
Okay.
My question is, during the COVID, were you operating at a deficit?
No, we survived on COVID grants.
Oh, there you go. So you're not in a hole right now that you had to come out of.
Correct. If we were on a hole, we'd have to shut our doors. I mean,
You just basically have no bank account.
Yeah,
we're not a taking out loans kind of operation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Deborah, last question.
Yeah, thank you. I always forget to put my hand down. Let me put my hand permanently raised. I mean, clearly what's great about this group and why I like working with this group is that we're all trying to find solutions for everybody, because everybody who comes in with such great ideas, and everybody wants to help. So please know that that's where all of this is coming from. But I also want to just identify one thing and then comment on one thing. One is, I do understand that the difference between 20 kids and 40 kids, it's exponential. It's not just about getting a teacher. It's a completely different model, of the service that you would give, of the difference between, so you may not be a person who wants to do that because you want that small environment, and that's a completely fine choice. We're just looking for solutions for you, but that's a valid thing to do. And I just wanted to say that, as well as to expand. And so my question to you about the cushion is, like, you can't hire a teacher without knowing that you have money in the bank, not just the 5,000 until the money comes in, but that there's a little bit more cushion than that in case, because you're bringing somebody into the community. It's a long-term job. It's not just, it's not a small thing. So I want to understand what a cushion would be that would allow you to feel comfortable with bringing somebody into the community, and hiring them for like a real job. It's not, you're not just shoveling stuff, so I think it's, my understanding on this grant is that would be more than 5. And so I just kind of want to understand what that is.
So you're asking the level of, like, what we'd like our bank account to be for this person to arrive?
Yeah, what the cushion,
the more the merrier. I mean, ideally, I would feel comfortable if we had a cushion of, say, 50,000.
That's
we
not what I'm
already talked about fundraising, but with COVID, no one really wanted to ask for money because it's COVID. But yeah, I mean, I do think what you're highlighting is that we are inviting a person into this community, for someone's life, who has a family, and we want to make sure that we're able to support that transition.
Yeah, I mean, I know that 50 would be great and 5 would get you by. I'm trying to understand the realistic in between of that. Yeah, and so that's what
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Wendy, but would it be fair, Deborah, to say that their grant has sort of unintentionally or intentionally answered that question? they've basically,
I guess so. Okay, we can, and that could be.
no, I'm putting that out there, Wendy, to help you to try to.
Yeah.
Deborah's asking a good question, but trying to help you to frame it is, you've sort of said with $20,000, even though you only maybe need 5, that would make you feel comfortable and operate. I think that's sort of what Deborah's asking.
It is,
Yeah,
and I think, yeah, you've answered it for me, Jen, but I think, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thank you.
Larry, we're now, well, we're on time for the whole meeting. This has been a long thing. This is an important discussion. So Larry, and then I have one last question. And Larry, go ahead.
Very quick. Are you open in the summer?
No,
Have you considered it?
the rec center uses our building for their town camps. So the rec center offers, I think it's like, I don't know the ages, but I think it starts at 5. So we leave the last day of school. We need to be cleaned out and have everything, like all of our Woodstock nursery school stuff in and away. And then Woodstock Rec comes in and brings out all of their materials. And they
Would you
use,
stay open if you could?
would we stay open if we could? No, I would not.
Is there be? Okay, well. Larry, sorry, do you have any other questions? Would you mentioned that the Woodstock Nursery organization, I think, is not a sort of a loan type, a group that's comfortable with lending or borrowing. Would you be, given that you may only need 5,000, but the uncertainty that Deborah was describing, would a loan from the EDC, which you would have to pay back if things worked out, and which you wouldn't have to pay back if you ran into an unexpected situation like the 21 plus 4 turned out to be 15 plus 4.
Yeah.
So not a kind of a loan that you might be afraid to make from Mascoma Bank or Citibank or whoever. Is there a reason why is there a reason why that wouldn't be perfectly suited to your current uncertainty and situation? Would you be comfortable with that option? Yeah.
I think that's a question I'd have to ask my board and get back to you with. I don't think I can just answer that myself.
That's fine.
But I think it's a great idea. I'd have to talk.
No, that's perfectly acceptable answer. Okay, are there any other questions?
Not many you can make without having to pay.
John, one more on that. What now? You level of teacher is that third person? Could it be a student, a college student who's getting their master's to be able to do this as as part of their program?
An intern.
It all depends on how long they're going to be with children. So if we had 3 of them and they came in for a certain number of hours a week, that would be a certain level of, education and responsibility. What we're looking for is someone who has an associate's degree minimum. Bachelor's degree would be ideal, but that's, shooting for the stars. So yeah,
you wouldn't want to do.
Sorry, go ahead.
You wouldn't want to try to fill that third position in with interns from college who are trying to get credits to be child development, and with the possibility of.
No, I would love to. Yeah. I mean, I used to teach in Addison County and we had interns from Middlebury College all the time.
Have you looked for that now, or is it just not possible?
I mean, I think anything's possible. I don't know what college I would pull them from.
Dartmouth?
Dartmouth early ed. Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to look into it. I think the way that we used to do it was the federal program, and I can't think of it. Oh, work study. So I think that would be a way to do it. But again, that providing the level of kind of commitment we're looking for is higher than just an intern. I mean, it'd be great if we could have them and they could have a helping hand and we could do, bigger and better things, but we're really looking to kind of keep
I suggest that because I know I taught at college level and I hired interns and hired them when they graduated, and so just a way of you're struggling to find teachers. I think maybe you need to get a little more creative with, what you're looking for. It
Right.
might- you-
I'm
you-
let him finish this. Okay, yeah, sorry, we've kind of, and I led us there. We kind of verged into problem solving from information gathering. So, and you've got a very challenging
Appreciate it.
problem and that we all know is very important. So we're all kind of interested in trying to help figure out the solution.
Yes, we are, very much.
But thank you very much.
And thanks for what you
Are we-
do, because it's a hard job.
That was a question that you said.
That was a question.
All right, thank you
How we
very
all
much.
very
Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Gertner,
Yes, thank you both so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks
Bye.
for doing. I should have said this earlier, and I just realized Rebecca Mitchell, who's a member of the community, is on, I'm sure, while she's, I'm sure, interested in what we've talked about, she's on to hear Ginevra Wetmore's presentation on electric equipment, because I know Rebecca's interested in that. Rebecca, before you came on, we switched around because we had a delay, and Ginevra already gave her presentation. So I should have told you before, it didn't occur to me. It's been recorded, and so you can hear her presentation. Well, the recording will be up in 2 days, would be my guess. I'll let you know. So
Great, thank you very much.
I
And
apologize.
if you have questions for it, you can ask questions through the forum.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you have questions for Geneva, you can ask it on the forum and she'll answer them.
yep,
So,
super. Thank
okay,
you very much for addressing that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If we had just adjourned, which we're now about to do, you would have go, wait, what's going on? Okay, if there's no, so we've gotten through, we have 1, 2, 3, we have 6 more, including on Tuesday, March 22nd. Before the meeting, for the EDC members that are on, I think we're all here except Mika. Apparently, the emails, I've screwed up on the dates a little bit, that we're scheduled. So I will do Tuesday, March 22nd, which is a week from tomorrow. Everyone is agreed. That was no mistake about that. That's from 6 o'clock to about 8. We have 6 grants to go through. Those will be the last 6. We have to confirm when we can all get together to have our deliberation meeting, because there's I made a mistake on the dates, whether we can do it on Wednesday or not,
Or
whichever,
Thursday.
or Thursday, or whatever the date is. So I will reach out tomorrow to try to schedule it. I don't think it's the end of the world. I mean, it would be great to do it then, but if we can't, if there's even a 1-week delay, I don't think it's the end of the world. We have to have a time to deliberate. We have to have that meeting publicly and all that. So I apologize for the mix up, and I'll send out an email tomorrow. We'll start to schedule that.
Do you think that's going to be enough time one evening to deliberate all these?
I don't know. I've been giving some thought to how to deliberate, how to prioritize. I mean, we're all here. So
Might make it.
we could discuss.
Day long thing, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think, well,
That's what I think.
Are we still doing the low, medium, high?
Right, Kyle?
yeah. So I had that discussion, Deborah, just to explain with some of the people during lunch. So we have to achieve 2 things which are in conflict, but I think that there's a way to toe the line. We have to have our deliberations in public. Deliberations are what we're doing right now, which is in public. We have to have that be public. We can't privately deliberate, period. But we also need to, I believe, I'm certain, because I've done this prioritization and decision-making many, many times before, I'm sure most of you have. We also need to start off with a sense of where we agree, where we're uncertain, where we disagree, because we can save a lot of time. We can save a lot of time by knowing that, 9 out of 9 people think this is a great idea and 9 out of 9 people think this is a bad idea. That doesn't mean we won't talk about both, but we don't need to allocate the same amount of time we do as if 4 people think it's good and 4 people think it's bad and 2
Right.
people aren't sure, or whatever the 9 adds up to 9. So I believe that what we should do, however much time we allocate for this, is for each of us to individually prepare, is to basically do what we did with those Google Sheets beforehand, which did not constitute deliberation because no one is talking to anyone else, but everyone is preparing. And that each of us would sort of say, for each of the 28 applications, I think there's a low chance I would vote for it, a medium chance, a high chance, or I just don't know enough. I can't make a decision yet. And that we all prepare that, but don't share it. And at the moment we come together at the beginning of the meeting, we push a button, we now see where things are, and we then we start talking about the things where we're unsure or where we're unsure, and then we go from that.
And
to
we're
the-
just talking with each other. Is that
Correct. This is deliberations. There are no public comments. I mean, it's a public meeting, so maybe we have to have, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes of citizen
And the
comments. at the beginning.
applicants don't give input or any.
No, this is
no
deliberations. No, it's
Okay.
deliberations. Now, I mean, we can't.
No. No,
Sorry.
that's,
I'm saying it's up to us, but we are entitled to deliberate without any
Without
input.
input.
Right.
from other
Was
people.
it noted?
We're getting the input from the public, and
No.
then that's when we'll
We're getting input now, but at this
No, no, no,
deliberation.
and we will continue to
Scared
get input on the discussion forum. We'll continue to promote the discussion forum up to the date of the deliberation meeting or the day before. I'll
I'm
summarize.
talking about the day of deliberations,
Just
No,
us.
it's just us.
no input
Right.
from the outside.
gallery only,
Right.
but
So John,
Yeah.
could we do a survey that, that we all answer, high, medium, low, or whatever the choices
That's in
are?
effect what I'm saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what it
and
said.
then that can be, that, if you do it with Survey Monkey or something like that, it'll tally up everything.
That's
And-
exactly,
Yeah.
I wouldn't use, leave the platform aside. That's exactly what I'm proposing we would do. So that we start the meeting that where for the first time instantly at that moment, we go from no deliberation to, we now know we're initial
Everybody
thoughts.
stands, Yeah.
And then we go there from making
I
the
just
decision.
keep thinking about Squid Game. You know,
Uh,
small town,
Ah,
lot of
So-
changes.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm proposing.
Okay,
Now,
I think it's a great idea.
All
Yes,
right, is
great
anybody
idea.
opposed to that? Low, medium, high, uncertain. Okay.
I feel high.
And then the second question is how much time do we need? So why don't we deal with the how much time and therefore when to schedule? Those two are intertwined. In the email that I send around tomorrow, we are allowed as a group to talk to each other via email as a quorum about scheduling. That's the only thing we're allowed to talk about as a group.
That's great. That
So-
sounds great.
So we will talk about that.
okay.
If that's all right. It's 8:00 and we should,
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that's great.
we'll get a good night's
Awesome.
sleep. But I think we're on track. Another good set of discussions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Move to adjourn.
second.
Okay. Any
And-
discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
we are.
Good night,
adjourned.
Right,
guys.
everybody.
Thanks, John.
Ever opposed adjourning a
Oh, I
meeting?
saw-
Now you can turn the meeting log off. Yeah.
Oh, I have to
And-
turn the recording. Hold on. Thanks, everybody. Wait a minute. How do I? There we go.